Modern life demands conformity. Everyone has to be aggressive, everyone has to be rajasic, everyone has to be ambitious, everyone has to be a go-getter, everyone has to max exams, and anyone who doesn't fit into this is left behind. Whereas in the Indian culture, every single human being had a place in life. Every single human being had his work cut out for him or her. And as they said, it was according to your varna and ashrama. Beautifully designed so that every single human being had an opportunity to grow, to achieve the highest state of realization, irrespective of what the starting point was. And this is what is important. Full freedom was given. And this analysis of activity, of vocations, of one's life pattern, according to one's own varna, one's own composition, nature, and one's station in life, is something that is unique to the Indian culture. And the basis of all this is the three gunas. A little later, we'll explain what this varna and ashrama is. The three gunas are the foundation on which all of this is built. So before we proceed, and the reason we're taking this is because the portion that we're going to cover today and perhaps tomorrow deals with the gunas. So what are these three gunas? Three gunas means three distinct thought textures, three distinct mindsets that all of us carry. Every human being has all three gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas. So sattva is light, purity, wisdom. Sattvic people are visionaries. They have foresight. They have this brilliance, or tejas as they call it. And this brilliance stems from the fact that they have no selfishness. The quality of sattva itself is that of brilliance, is that of dedication to a higher cause, is that of the vision of something beyond the world and all that the world has to offer. This is the highest. A sattvic person, or the sattvic guna, is free from likes and dislikes. A sattvic person is engaged in the mere fulfillment of his or her obligations to their fullest. And the two terms that are associated with sattva are very important for us to achieve any kind of excellence in the world, not just spiritual. And the two are dhruti and utsaha. Dhruti is consistency of action, focus, undeterred focus. You see, the thing is, in life, once you put in a little bit of hard work, once you dedicate yourself to something, the rewards come. And prosperity and the good things of life are showered on you to such an extent that in itself becomes a distraction. Need not be, but it becomes. Very few people in the world have the capacity to retain this focus, retain this consistency, retain what we spoke of yesterday as shraddha. So that's dhruti, consistency of purpose, and utsaha, the pursuit of your goal with enthusiasm, not as drudgery. Now you take a look at all of us. We do our jobs because we have to do our jobs. There is neither consistency nor enthusiasm. And all that we're looking for is an excuse to get away from activity, to get away from work. So yesterday somebody said, what is this? Ambedkar Jayanti, tomorrow and day. Thursday and Friday, there's going to be a lot of traffic. Why do you imagine traffic? And even if there is traffic, it's much better that you come here and relax for 2 hours before you proceed. Why get stuck in the traffic for 2 hours? But this is a clear indication of somebody who doesn't have this consistency of purpose. There's no goal, there's no consistency, there's no shraddha. And naturally there's no utsaha, no enthusiasm for anything. Rajas is the next state, which is full of likes and dislikes, a lot of activity, frenetic activity. There's a frenzy of running after objects of desire. And you perform an activity because you like it, you avoid something because you dislike it, and so therefore there is no consistency of purpose. The only consistency there is running after objects of desire. And this has its attendant problems. Selfishness will give you mental agitations, distress, stress, and all that comes along with it. So a rajasic person is one who is putting in a lot of effort, but he doesn't gain the fruit of his actions because it all gets dissipated. So a tamasic person is one who's full of delusion, ignorance. Whatever he does is out of ignorance, out of delusion, reckless activity, or inertia, sloppy behavior, where the body is inactive, slow, the mind is dull, and the intellect is blunt. It's a very plant-like existence where you're not reacting toward the world. You don't even notice what's happening around you. And so, what we need to understand is that irrespective of the combination of sattva, rajas, tamas in us, every one of us is born with outstanding qualities, fantastic talent, tremendous potential. All of that gets wasted as long as you're operating out of your tamasic qualities. You may be a brilliant sports person, you may be an outstanding scientist, you may be a fabulous musician, but as long as tamas is holding sway, there's nothing coming out of it. So these are the three. Now, all these three have a place in our life. Let's take a look. Sattva enlightens. It brings you peace. And your creativity, your innovative ideas need a certain element of rajas to translate into action, to translate into benefits for society. So rajas also has this place in life, dynamism, work, activity. Tamas also has its place in life because tamas, every one of us sleeps. Deep sleep is nothing but tamas. So rest, forgetfulness. Forgetfulness means not that you're forgetting things. You forget your ill will, you forget the harm that others have done you forget all that is part of tamas. But what is important is, the Gita says, that growth takes place only when you are established in sattva. Therefore, if you're committed to your own growth, if you're determined to make some kind of progress in any field of activity, you have to be able to identify your sattva guna. You have to be able to operate out of your sattva guna. So sattva means clarity, foresight, clarity of thinking. You need to, now what happens when a person is established in rajas? There is stagnation. You take 2 steps forward, 3 steps backward, and there is this movement within a narrow band. You find it extremely difficult to get out of the groove of desire, selfishness, ego, and all the rest of the impediments. When you are predominant in tamas, you deteriorate. And that deterioration is fast, the decline. And this is because of stubbornness, pig-headedness, your refusal to listen to good sense. And what tragic consequences it has, you've got to see it to believe it. In ourselves, in others. And therefore, We have to make a determined effort to fight tamas on a war footing. To give rajas the slightly upward swing, in the sense that continue activity, but rededicate your rajas activity to something higher and actively promote your sattva. Let's see how it happens. So you have to identify your best, which is sattva, the mediocre qualities, rajas, and your worst, which is tamas. What happens is, let's take an example. Suppose you have a garden, and in that garden there are flowers, exotic flowers, delicate flowers that need careful nurturing, careful looking after. You have a lawn and you have weeds. Every garden has weeds, which grow by themselves. You don't need any looking after. But a good gardener is one who nurtures and nourishes the exotic flowers because they're delicate. It requires cultivation. So he takes care of the soil, the water, the sunlight, everything has to be just right for these plants. And then the lawn, also he takes care of. The weeds are the problem. Now what do you think of a person who has a fabulous garden but is constantly watering the weeds, letting the lawn run riot, and stifling the flowers, exotic flowers? And in a sense, all of us are doing exactly that. And modern life is all geared towards tamas. How do we say that? One other very interesting thing that Vedanta tells us is that whatever sattvic content you have, it may be little, it may be more, surfaces in your mind, comes up, manifests in what is known as Brahma Muhurta. You heard of it? Yeah. What is this Brahma Muhurta? 4 to 6 a.m. You got that? 4 to 6 a.m. How many of us see light of day before 6 a.m.? I go for a walk every morning on Marine Drive. Throughout that Queen's Necklace, Malabar Hill, and this is not between 4 and 6 a.m., please. It's well way after that. Not one single light is on in any of those homes. Okay? So what are we doing with our sattva? We're sleeping through it. Rajas, okay. Particularly Mumbai city is one of activity, dynamism. So there's rajas. Between sunrise and sunset, your rajasic qualities come up, surface. And all your tamasic, indulgent traits surface when after sundown. So, cards, what else? All the bars open after 6:30, right? That's why it's called a sundowner. Partying, indulgent activities start only after sundown. And here in Bombay now, it's after 10 p.m. So what are we doing? We're stifling our sattvic qualities. Rajas, willy-nilly, we're keeping it alive and actually promoting our tamas. Whereas ancient Indian life was based on the promotion of sattva, the cultivation of rajas, keeping rajas alive and stifling tamas. So what the typically Indian life consisted of was you wake up early in the morning, 4 a.m. I mean, don't try it tomorrow morning, you'll get jet lagged sitting here in Mumbai. If you're used to waking up at 8, suddenly you wake up at 4, you'll fall asleep. Gradually, if you program yourself to waking up early, it is wonderful. Your mind is fresh, your intellect is alert, you're able to Ideas come to you. It's literally like downloading information, within you, in your intellect. The ideas just flow, but, they come into your mind. It's such a joy. The same you, the same mind, during the day you're struggling, oh, what did I think of first thing in the morning? That's why if you want to capture it, you've got to write it down. Because your intellect slows down. And after sundown is impossible. So, 1 hour of study pre-dawn is equivalent to 2 hours during the day, is equivalent to 3 hours after sundown. This is the proportion. So this is what we're doing. So typically, Indian life consisted of an early wake-up and early morning study not of material things, study of the scriptures, prarthana they called it. And then after this solid 1.5 hours of study, you did exercise, Surya Namaskar and yoga and aerobic exercises, etc. And then you got back to activity. And then you are highly energized. Both in your mind and intellect is alert and available, and your body is raring to go. During the day, you perform dedicated activity for a higher cause, for loka sangraha, jagat hitaya. These were the terms that were used. So nobody performed selfish activity. And then after sundown, when everyone came home, just before dinner, you freshened up, just before dinner, you had a half-an-hour session of bhajans. This was the pattern. So generation after generation of young Indians were brought up with this lifestyle that was designed to promote sattva, to keep up rajas, and stifle tamas. Now, I'm not suggesting you should go back literally to this. You can tailor it. Now, if you don't have time to go home and sing bhajans, at least listen to them in the car. But early morning, wake up and study is absolutely essential if you are interested in your own self-development. And so therefore, we have available knowledge for the study. Most chapters of the Gita are available on CD or DVD. We have some books, etc. So help yourself to that. Not just help yourself. Use it to spread the knowledge. This is very important. Nobody can achieve an objective alone. It has to be a collective thing. If you read the book called Tipping Point, it's about how one person can make a difference to bring about a change in society. All you have to do is talk about it, spread the word. Anytime you need to give a gift that is meaningful, a book, a CD, something that will uplift people. So, in the end, as Krishna says in chapter 2, verse 45, life is all about transcending the gunas, gunatita. Traigunya vishaya vedaha nistraigunya bhavarjuna nirdvandvo nitya sattvasthaha niryoga ksema atmavan. The Vedas explain the 3 gunas, traits, O Arjuna. Free yourself of the 3 gunas and the pairs of opposites. Nitya sattvasthaha, establish yourself in sattva, free from acquisition and preservation, and remain in the self. What a highly inspiring verse. It says, the Vedas are supposed to be the highest repository of knowledge, the most respected text in the Indian culture. And here is Krishna saying, the Vedas only speak of the 3 gunas, O Arjuna. Your objective is not to get stuck in the 3 gunas. Even the sattva guna is an impediment. Rise beyond it. Go beyond the 3 gunas. How do you get there? Nitya sattvasthaha. Establish yourself in sattva. Eradicate rajas and tamas. Once you become 100% sattvic, automatically you move over to that gunatita state. And then you go beyond the pairs of opposites. These pairs of opposites in the world will not have the power to harass you anymore. Now, we were on the 5th verse yesterday, where he says, beings do not exist in me either. Pashyame yogamaishwaram. So, if you go back, you say, verse 4 says, all beings dwell in me, I do not dwell in them. In this verse, he says, nor do beings dwell in me. It seems like an apparent contradiction. But in verse 4, because you're seeing this universe, because you're seeing the world, because you're seeing beings around you, he gives credence, he accommodates the beings. And he says, all beings dwell in me. But I don't dwell in them. I cannot be restricted to the manifestation. Now in this verse, slowly he introduces this